Bonjour and welcome back to the Paris Wedding Show. Today we're taking a journey through the lens of a truly exceptional photographer who captures love stories with an elegance that is both timeless and deeply personal. Hailing from the picturesque countryside of Normandy, she transformed her passion into a profession, photographing weddings across the European landscape for over a decade. With a heart that beats for adventure, inspired by childhood summers in the sparkling blue seas of Malta, and the love for nature that's palpable in every frame she captures, Frances' journey is as captivating as the stories she captures. So let's dive into the world of Frances, the France-based destination wedding who crafts authentic, elegance, and timeless memories on the Paris Wedding Show. Frances, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for taking the time, as always, to be a part of this show. I wouldn't be very effective if I was on my own. I do a lot of solo episodes, and they're not the same. So it's always better to have someone with us to discuss. So thanks for being here. We could start this early morning podcast by telling my audience and people more about you. So go ahead and introduce yourself. Welcome to the show.
Great. Okay, so I'm Frances and I'm a wedding photographer that's currently based in Normandy. Although I originally started my photography career in the UK where I grew up. I started photographing weddings at 18 and never really looked back, to be honest. 12 years later, still fully fledged wedding photographer, now predominantly shooting destination weddings in France, which is just a dream. That's kind of my story, really. Obviously, there is quite a bit more to it, but that's really the the
That's a good
basics
start.
there. Yeah,
That's
I
a good
moved. I
start.
moved. I moved to France 4 years ago now. So, 4.5 years ago now. It's gone fast, especially with the pandemic.
Yeah. So, how did you manage, by the way, this transition? Because I know that for the wedding industry, it was very complicated for everyone. A lot of cancellations, a lot of hassle, let's say. So, how did you get out of the crazy pandemic?
Oh, it was very difficult. So we bought the house early 2019, and it was a very impulsive decision to move to France. So I still had 2 years worth of weddings booked back in the UK.
Oh,
So my partner decided, okay, I'm going to move to France officially, get started on the house renovations, and I will be very much moving back and forth from the UK, France, shooting weddings constantly. We
wow.
can all tell where this is going to go.
Hectic.
So 2019 was absolutely fine, obviously. But I plan to do the same where I was traveling back and forth constantly in 2020 for weddings. Obviously, that was very abruptly put a stop. And at the start, I was kind of doing the same as all the other suppliers at the time, was just letting everyone postpone and just doing what I could to just be as accommodating as I could for my couples. I was in France throughout the lockdowns, which I felt very fortunate to be, because I was actually in the UK when France went into lockdown,
Okay.
photographing weddings then. And I didn't think the government was going to let me back in. They nearly didn't.
Of course.
The French love their paperwork, and I barely had any paperwork to
Oh,
prove that I was living in France,
oh my God.
because I was still very much in this transitional period. But yeah, in the end, my couples were very understanding, and I had just had to explain that I was when they obviously were having their weddings in the UK, and I was stuck in France because the travel restrictions were too high. I was just having to refund everyone, sadly, and that's pretty much where I was left, doing refunding pretty much everyone. And so I then just took my focus to, well, let's really build up my business here in France. This is what I wanted to do anyway. It, it took a
Yeah.
little longer than I expected, really.
I, I have the impression that a lot of photographers, vendors, wedding planners got out stronger out of this crazy worldwide event. And yeah, I think it's a positive thing to see that we had much more bookings in the years afterwards, where everyone was scared about what's going to happen. Now we see that it's a solid industry and solid place to go. So can we just move around your business photography, because you're a photographer, very talented, really like your style. But how do you manage to all everything besides photography in your business? Are you on your own, or do you work with other freelancers? I'm talking about all the insights, like the marketing, emails, all of this. Can you dissert about this?
So I very much am a solopreneur, as they like to call it. I do everything myself, but
Hmm.
that's okay actually, because I love the business side. For me, I love the business side just as much as the photography side. I know a lot
Hmm.
of people get into photography because they love the creativity, and then it comes to business and marketing and they're like, "Oh, I hate it."
Hmm.
But for me, I love just as much. Like if I didn't take any photos and I just did the business, I would probably still be quite happy. But obviously, I'm so glad that it's both. I love the balance between the two, where one day I can just be creative and just, let the art take me, and then the next day it's like, right, strategy, plan, that kind of
Hmm.
thing.
Yeah, a lot of solopreneurs. I also love this term. Right before we started, you thought about you told about the term thought provoking. I really like it too. Uh, yeah, this is a solopreneur industry. I have the impression, and you have to be aware of many things of behind the curtains, marketing, social media, obviously, all this kind of thing. And yeah, people most of the time like it. I have a lot of contacts with solopreneurs like you, like me, and you are like one person business kind of, and sometimes you have to change your cap and say, okay, I'm a social media manager today. I'm a salesman. I am a lot of that. So you seem to deal with it very easily on the
Yeah,
outside.
I definitely love it, all of it, which I think is rare for people in the creative industries.
So
But I
you've been in this industry for over a decade now.
Yeah, so I photographed my first wedding at 18. I
Wow.
was dabbling in other types of photography before that, mostly like music and things like that. But yeah, I really, really found myself at home with weddings. And yeah, I started my business straight out of school at 18. I was very fortunate to have the support of my parents at the time, and they were very encouraging. And yeah, it just really snowballed from there. I'm now 30. So yeah, I've been doing this for 12 years. If you
Wow.
Maybe 10 years if you count the sort of 2-year gap of the pandemic, because I wasn't photographing weddings in the UK, but I also had no bookings in France. There was a little bit of a quiet patch whilst I was watching all the other wedding suppliers be absolutely inundated with wedding bookings. I was very quiet, so that was quite unusual.
Hmm. So we met in Normandy on a very sunny day, if you remember. That's kind of ironic because it was a destination wedding with UK clients, and it was raining, and then the sun was showing, and then like the rain was coming back. It was a bit tense. You know, this kind of situations, obviously, because the bride and groom are expecting a lot. And it seemed like you were everywhere, and you managed to make everyone smile. So, what's your secret for that? How do you do that? It's easy to
uh,
take pictures, but it's not easy to make people comfortable. I do a lot of weddings, and I can tell when people are, yeah, making people feeling better. So, do you have a
mm.
secret routine for that?
Yeah, I think honestly, and I don't know if this is how other people work, but at least for me, I find that I've almost got like a routine at weddings where I know now what to say in certain scenarios to make people feel comfortable. And I don't mean that in like a routine or scheduled way. It's just
Hmm.
these kind of like tricks and tips that you pick up from doing this for such a long time. And I think that I am actually a very shy, awkward person in my normal life. So
Okay.
it's quite funny to me that I always think it's very odd that I ended up being a wedding photographer, because you do need to be quite outgoing and like friendly, and like I'm the sort of person that hates to make a phone call, for example.
Hmm.
And I was very nervous about this podcast and things like that. But yeah, on a wedding day, it there's a different energy, and I feel very at home. And yeah, I definitely get my steps in, because I run around
Yeah.
constantly. I'm constantly like, I love to people watch, which I think is a great trait in the
Yeah.
wedding photography world. To just look around and constantly spot moments and things to photograph.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think that pretty much
Can you
sums it
share
up.
like something, a memorable experience that you have from a special wedding in France that stands out to you?
Yeah, so I gave this question some thought actually, and I kept coming back to one moment. So back when I was photographing weddings in the UK, I was very much serving just local English, clients. And so I wasn't, although I did do some weddings with different cultures and backgrounds, it was very English tradition. So when coming to France, I'm working with basically clients from all over the world, which I absolutely love. And I love the way that some of them bring their traditions and customs that aren't, typically what
Mhm.
I would, know and understand. And one couple this year, Morgan and Cody, they had they wanted to do what was called a first touch, and I was like, I have no idea what this is. What is this first touch? I'd heard of a first look before. I'd only photographed
Absolutely.
a couple in my career. I know that's very common with American couples, but with English couples, they're very traditional. They very much want to see each other down
Hmm.
the aisle. So yeah, we picked this lovely little kind of corner in the chateau where they would both be stood, but they wouldn't be able to see each other, but they could touch each other. And it
Wow.
was lovely because they were able to just hold hands and they really wanted to read their personal vows to each other for the first time during that moment at the wedding morning instead of during the ceremony. Because they
Mhm.
knew that if if they were to do it for the first time in front of all their family and friends, they would not be able to get through it. And I thought that that was such a special moment that I had the privilege of being a part of and capturing. And they didn't have a videographer. So I even was like, oh, I need to capture this on my phone on video for you, because I feel like even the photos are just not going to be enough to capture such a beautiful moment. And it was a terrible little, video on my phone where I'm walking backwards and forwards
I
in front
see.
of it to take the photos. But I felt like that was such a lovely moment. And yeah, it was definitely an honor to be able to be a part of that and capture that.
Yeah, actually, I never heard of that first touch. Maybe I'm new into this game, but yeah, it's the first time. So yeah, thanks for sharing. And how do you prepare for a wedding shoot in a location you've never been to before?
So I always start by having a good look online just to understand like the layout of the venue and what are the common areas for the ceremony. I'll obviously speak to the couple and sometimes they'll say, "Oh, we're not going to get married where they usually. We're going to pick the forest or at the back of the chateau, and people normally get married at the front." So I like to try and obviously I've spoken to my couples. I understand where all the different parts are, and then I like to have a good look online to find the different areas. I love to look at other photographers that have photographed there just to get a good idea. But I try not to like get myself overly set on specific locations and things like that. I very much like to turn up to a venue with fresh eyes. I always arrive early so I can have a
Right.
good look around the venue, speak to the planner, say hello to the couple, and yeah. But I think with regards to like new venues, I actually prefer photographing at new venues rather than going back to the same ones every time, because I find that I'm more inspired and by a new space that I've never been to before. So I love that challenge. I
Mhm.
find that I have to be very careful with myself when I go back to the same venue to not just repeat what I did the first time and
Of course.
actually challenge myself to be very different.
Nice.
Yeah, I find that actually more difficult than just being at the venue for the
I
first time, which
I
is
agree.
quite interesting.
Yeah, yeah. So, do you have? Let's talk about your Maltese heritage, which I find very interesting. You're talking about your summers in Malta.
Mhm.
Seem to evoke a love for adventure. So, how does this cross-cultural background reflect in your work, do you think?
Yeah, so this one was a really, yeah, definitely a thought-provoking question. And I had to give it a lot of thought. And I think that's because I sometimes when you live it, you don't necessarily realize um the experience and the inspiration you've had from a place when it's just been always been a part of you.
Mhm.
And the beautiful thing about Malta, if you've never heard of this island, if you've never been there, it's a very, very small island in the Mediterranean Sea, just south of Italy. And it's got so much rich history. It's such a beautiful
Absolutely.
place. You've got such gorgeous coastline cliffs. The beaches are amazing. You've got the Blue Lagoon, but then you've also got like the beautiful Maltese architecture, the silent walled city of Mdina, the small fishing town of like Marsha Slock. There's so much going on in such a small little space. Like you can drive from one side of the island in like 45 minutes if there's no traffic. And that's not even, there's no motorways there. So it's a very small island. And I think growing up there, I always loved, like, obviously the sun, the sea, but just the warmth that that place, like, physically, and how we made you feel.
Absolutely.
But the colors of the island as well. I mean, they have a lot of bright colors, but I'm specifically talking about the golden tones of the island, like all of the sandy stone architecture and this. I mean, it is basically just a rock, the island.
Right.
Like there's very few sandy beaches there. It's more rocks everywhere. And I think that those tones and that warmth has really led me to incorporate that into my work. So I have a very warm golden style. And even if I'm shooting like a wedding in the depths of December and it's cold and rainy, I will still seek out that warmth. It
Find a
might just
way.
be it might just be a little bit, different. Maybe maybe the warmth will come from some lamps or a golden, the fire or something like that. But I will still seek out that same warmth and golden tones in my work. But obviously, being a destination wedding photographer in France now, I don't typically shoot weddings in the winter so much anymore, and
Mhm.
work a lot down south. And so I feel like I get that same warmth and light that I got in Malta, uh, in in uh,
Definitely prints into
in
your
France.
yeah, you can definitely pick up something different in your style. I kind of developed modestly an eye for photography with the years now, and I can tell that it's I really like the blending of cultures that your work is showing up. So I wanted
Oh, thank
to discover a little bit more about this, and thanks for sharing. So now, being in this business for a decade, how have you seen the wedding photography evolve during this time? Because you've been in business for a pretty long time.
Yeah, so I think for me, when I was based back in Kent, very much known as the Garden of England,
Hmm.
I was very, I guess, focused on nature and countryside. But moving to France, even though I live even more so in the countryside than what I used to back in Kent, I actually am so in love with the architecture here, the buildings, from, the beautiful chateaus all over the country to the incredible sites in Paris and the picturesque little villages in the countryside. I just feel very spoiled here with the beauty. So I think with these like beautiful buildings, I strive to have more buildings and architecture in my work now, whereas before it was always about the nature. So now I try and combine both. But also I think I was always very focused on um like, oh yeah, beautiful background, beautiful landscape. Especially sometimes I would shoot weddings that weren't in the most picturesque of places, in like Kent, or like, in the dark depths of London, and maybe there's not that many nice
Of
streets
course.
around, and so like have
Mhm.
to be a little bit more creative with like finding beautiful spots. But I think now, being based in France, these incredible venues, there is so much beauty that actually I don't necessarily need to focus so much on the background. I'm actually finding myself more and more focusing on the people and really capturing the emotion of them. And yeah, I think that combination of the beautiful background and that true emotion, rather than just, oh, this is a pretty photo. I
Yeah.
really want to focus on both. And I think that's what I think
Do you
that's
keep
becoming more obvious as I spend more years in this industry.
do you keep upgrading yourself, like going to workshops and like getting better? Do you do that?
So I'm not a huge workshop goer. I used to go to them more back in the UK. I actually prefer to do my own, organize my own shoots opposed to booking onto a workshop.
Right.
And I organized one in Paris earlier this year with a lovely couple and a few other photographers, and we all went and we just like wandered around Paris, and I felt like that was super inspiring. And workshops can be quite expensive as well.
I do.
And when I'm only really just getting myself back on my feet this year after, a tough few years. So to do my own shoot, and obviously then, not, and it'd be completely my own vision. I really love doing that to inspire me. But also I do other things to inspire me. Like I love taking self-portraits of both myself and me and my partner. That's something
Right.
that I really love to do.
Okay.
Not that he enjoys it that much, but he's very good and
Supportive.
very supportive, exactly. And I really enjoy doing that for like a creative outlet for sure.
Nice. So you're based in Normandy. You are working obviously in Normandy and all around France, I guess.
Mm.
But
Yep.
do you also do destination wedding anywhere else in
So I
Europe?
used to. I used to. I've been fortunate enough to photograph weddings all over Italy. I've done Cyprus, I've done Mallorca. Um, I've even done one in Malta, but I think now I think I'm very much at home with France weddings. I very much like to just pack up the car and drive.
Yeah,
And so I love the ease of that. It was always quite a lot of hassle with, a plane and the car hire and all
of
of
course.
that. So I really love the ease of just, and I will quite happily book a wedding 8 hours away and just drive it in one day. And I'm well away. I'll be listening to podcasts, probably some of yours, whilst driving. So yeah, I'm quite happy, and yeah, this is actually something, because if you go on my website right now, you can see that I've got weddings and I advertise for all over Europe, but I'm actually stopping this for next year and only photographing weddings in France moving forward.
Focus on France. This is
Yeah.
very nice to hear from a UK person, and I really enjoyed that. I'm French. I'm born and raised in Paris. I traveled a lot, but I lived in the UK as well, and I really think that to work in this industry, destination weddings, with most of the clients being foreigners, it helps me and all the French national to remember that there's a lot of international people like you who love to live in our country and will never think or think too much about politics and all the things involved with that, and just enjoy the lifestyle here. So I'm very glad to have people like you here in my country. That was the national words from the French embassy. It was a small message, but I think it's important. Of
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I think France has its issues like every country, but
course.
the lifestyle that France is giving me compared to what I would have had in the UK is just amazing. And the weddings here are just incredible. Why would I need to go further afield? That's kind of how I feel about France. And yeah, people always ask me, "Oh, do you miss the UK?" And I can wholeheartedly say no. I really do feel at home in France, which is amazing.
Very nice. So, what are your plans for 2024? We're recording this in November, 1st of November, 2023. So, do you have something in mind, something that you want to share? Maybe a new project, new inspiration?
I don't think so. Nothing too exciting happening next year, to be honest. I'm completely honest. There
I
is
like
no,
that.
I definitely don't beat around the bush. I think, yeah, next year is just going to be continuing to build, upon my business and really like hone in on my style. I've really found that this year being my first full year of French weddings,
Right.
I've really, I found that my style has really developed this year. So I'm looking forward to expanding on that even more next year. And yeah, and I'm also like really looking into 2025 now, being nearly fully booked for next year. I'm now focused on 2025
Wow.
weddings.
Congratulations. This is good.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I don't take on a lot of weddings like I used to. I used to take on 30 to 40 weddings a year. Now I'm
You
at 16.
focus.
Yeah, I'm at 16 for next year, and I'm quite happy there. A couple more would be lovely, but I'm also not super
Pushing.
set on that.
All right.
So yeah, so I'm quite happy. I think 15 is my ideal number
Okay.
for 2025. So yeah, not I definitely am striving for more of that work-life balance. And
This is a
yeah,
big
so
deal.
that's yeah.
I think it's important, and many people also in the industry are, well, even besides in general. I don't know if you remarked, but many business, I don't like the word, but gurus are telling about this work-life balance. I think it's pretty important, and it's going to be some big topic in the years to come. People don't want to work not too much, but like intensively, and not have this healthy balance of just enough sleep and enough time with
Mm.
you and your family and all that. So looking forward to this. And lastly, for couples looking to have a wedding captured in an authentic way, what advice would you give them when you're selecting a wedding photographer?
So I think definitely, you've got to really resonate with the photographer's work, but not just their work, like have a Zoom call with them, like meet them and talk about what you really want out of your photos and out of your day. And, find out someone that you really, get on with and that you feel will be a great friend to you on your wedding day. Because I always, it's quite funny. I was a guest at a wedding a couple of weeks ago, and it was so surprising to me to spend so little time with the couple as a guest compared to, effectively people that I don't really know that well. I'm there with them all day on their wedding day. And so you've really got to get on well with your photographer, because they will set a tone, around you for the entire day. Like, I'm there from when you're getting ready, 3 hours before the ceremony, right until I leave, an hour or so into the party at 10 p.m. Like, gonna have to look at your photographer's face all day. So make sure there's someone you really enjoy being around and that you get good energy and good vibes from.
I really like that. Do you do Zoom calls? Obviously.
Yeah, I make it a priority. As soon as people inquire, I'm like, let's jump on a call. Let's see
Yeah,
if we're a good fit for each other. Emails can be very impersonal, and sometimes people can be in business mode when they write their emails and can
I
not show
agree.
their true personality
Yeah,
in email. So I love to jump on a call, even if it's just a 10-minute phone call. I'd much rather that than just talk over email just to get a
yeah.
good idea. Even though I hate phone calls, as I admitted earlier, I will still do it because I feel like it is the best way to get to know someone.
I do this a lot. I mean, this is quite different. The process you for to select an officiant or celebrant or MC for your evening or wedding, you really definitely have to catch the chemistry with the person. So this is what I do as well. I jump on a call and get the vibe and the chemistry, and I end up my calls most of the time by saying, "Right now, you already know if you want to work with me or not, and this is perfect." That was the objective of this call. So just go with your flow and go, yeah, just go with the people that you like and feel. So thanks to Zoom for creating these opportunities.
Absolutely.
Francis, thank you so much for taking the time to be with me this morning. And I look forward to cross your smiling face in another rainy day, hopefully sunny. And if you have something that you want to say to the audience before we wrap up.
Thank you so much for having me. And yeah, we'll definitely cross our fingers for less rainy weddings next year, because it was a little bit wet this year, wasn't
That was crazy.
it?
Thank you and have a great day. Bye bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to the French Wedding Show. If you want to know more about our guest today, you can go to the show notes and find all the relevant links. Also, have a look at my website, theparisiancelebrant.com, also in the show notes. If you want to start to plan your wedding ceremony or elopement in Paris or anywhere in France. I look forward to hear your ideas. Thank you again so much for listening, and see you soon for another episode.